It's been a shocking year for video games, and with Starfield right around the corner, let's hope that continues in a good way. And meanwhile, Baldur's Gate 3 continues to hit success after success and also continues to stir that pot. So there's a bunch of different things going on here. IGN released their review of Baldur's Gate 3 very recently, and refreshingly they did so after waiting a couple of weeks. Now, they could have tried to hit maximum clicks and maximum views by releasing a review alongside the game, but instead, with respect to the game's sheer depth, they wanted to take their time over reviewing it. Ultimately, they felt very impressed with the game, awarding it a perfect 10 out of 10. Now, I'm sure some people out there are going to feel that there's no such thing as a perfect game, but my opinion is, what's the point of having a total score of 10 if you're never going to award it to any game? But either way, regardless of your feelings on that, Baldur's Gate 3 now has a total of 27 different reviews awarding it that perfect score. And meanwhile, players remain as equally impressed with it as they ever have been. Over on Steam, the game still has a 96% positive score, giving it an overall rating of overwhelmingly positive. The story is the same over on Metacritic, where it now stands as one of the highest rated games of the year, and I do believe the highest rated PC game of all time. What's more, massive numbers of players are still actively, playing the game. The game over on Steam charts has had a peak of 857,000 players, and day after day it reaches well over 500,000 players every single day. Now, usually what happens with brand new releases is that the peak number of players either happens on the first or second day, and then has a slow drop-off. However, with Baldur's Gate 3, things have been very different. There was of course a massive peak on the initial release, but instead of dropping off, the game just kept gaining players day after day, and this really shows the impact of positive word of mouth. Now, all of this is entirely understandable. Baldur's Gate 3 is objectively a fantastic game. It's also a game I've been enjoying a whole lot over the past few weeks. There's a lot to learn, it's a very deep game, but there's also a load of surprising twists and turns. It just has so much great character development as well, and some pretty interesting story. I don't know if you've had the chance to see some clips going around on YouTube. There's quite a few different 30-second and 60-second videos showing a whole variety of surprising and different things in Baldur's Gate 3. And this can be some genuinely funny things, as well as, of course, clips from the many different sex scenes the game contains. In short, it really feels that Larian Studios didn't pull any punches and really didn't hold anything back when it come to focusing on this game. But as we've seen over the past few weeks as well, this has led to Baldur's Gate 3 effectively being seen as a stir in the pot. It's not been welcomed by the entire industry. In some quarters, it's just seen as too good, and that players really shouldn't see it as a new standard. Now, this entire argument is perhaps getting in a little bit old hat for some people. We've heard it all before. Yet it's worth bringing up again because IGN very recently went out of their way to make an entire video dedicated to this very subject. Now, to me, this was kind of surprising, actually coming out of, IGN of all people. I'll include a link to the video in the description below so you can go and check it out yourself. They do have a whole range of different thoughts on this very subject. So yeah, again, that video is worth a watch. Now, whilst you're here, there are a few points I'd like to raise about that subject as well. I have talked about it in a previous video, but since then I've kind of given it a little bit more thought. And really, like I've said before, it really is a reflection of the AAA industry as it stands today, that, in short, some developers are feeling kind of threatened about this. There's also a few areas from players as well who are defending the AAA industry and actively pointing out that Baldur's Gate 3 is a once-in-a-generation or once-in-a-lifetime type of game, and that, they believe that we shouldn't expect things like this, and that reasoning is actually justified. How do they come to this conclusion? Well, it all comes down to Larian's unique circumstances. Those unique circumstances are the fact that Larian is a massive studio with 400 staff. They've been working on Baldur's Gate 3 for 6 years. They have a massive history with this type of particular genre, the CRPG. They've been working on these for decades, so have tons of experience. They also have a massive funding and a world-recognised IP. This, in the eyes of some studios and some players, makes Baldur's Gate 3 entirely unique. This reasoning, though, is entirely false and extremely flawed. Let's take Diablo 4 as a counterexample. This was made by a massive studio, a studio with huge funding, Blizzard. There was also many people working on the Diablo 4, apparently 9,000 people in total. Very hard to see what all those people were actually doing. And I think it's fair to say that in terms of IPs in the game industry, Diablo is a much bigger franchise than Baldur's Gate. After all, the last Baldur's Gate came out a couple of decades ago at this point. So with massive staffing, huge funding, as well as a big IP are all the ingredients you need for a successful game, then why has Diablo 4 been received so poorly? Could it be the very obvious difference that Diablo 4 has been built from the ground up to be over-monetized and that it wants to extract every single penny from the player, and that the gameplay and the entire game has been built around this concept, and that by comparison Baldur's Gate 3 is customer friendly and doesn't try to extract money out of the player and instead rewards them with a fantastic experience. Ultimately, not every single game needs to be as grand or as ambitious as Baldur's Gate 3, but I'd argue that every game should really be trying to respect players in the same way that Larian Studios currently is. Of course, that's just my opinion and my take on all of this. I'd love to hear your thoughts in the video description. Do you feel that Larian Studios stands pretty much unique in the games industry at the moment? Or do you feel that this is just a one-off occasion, that this is really an anomaly and we can't expect it to happen too much more? Do let me know your thoughts on this in the comment section below. I'd love to hear from you. As always, thanks for watching, and I'll catch you guys and girls next time.